Coady, and my story is called Birdhouse. So my mom had me when she was really young. She was only about 17, so my grandparents were a big part of my life, and they still are. My grandmother's name is Jeannie, and I call her Grandma, of course, but my grandfather's name is John, and I call him Poppy. And it's like Poppy, I don't call my grandfather Daddy in Spanish. But it's a big difference between my grandmother and my mom, and my grandmother and my grandfather, because my grandmother is more of a person who shows affection in everything that she does, and she shows you that she loves you so much by everything that she does. She's the person that makes scrapbooks and bakes cookies all for you and kisses your boo-boos when you've fallen. And my grandmother is also the type of person that kisses you when you feel down or loves on you no matter how you're feeling, even if you're the happiest person in the world. So my grandfather is more of a manly man, and he doesn't really show affection. He's the type of person that shows it in little gestures, as to tucking me in before I went to sleep, or making a big bowl of popcorn for us to share when we were watching movies before he would tuck me in. So we lived in a really small town in Connecticut before I moved to Kentucky, and so one day my grandfather decided that we were going to have a day of fun and go to Home Depot, because Home Depot is so fun, and you have so much fun at Home Depot. And so he took me to the back, and I was only 6, so I was like, well, maybe there's like a big piñata or a bouncy house in the back of Home Depot, because Home Depot is so fun. So when we got back there were actually other families that were there, and there was this huge table that had wood and paints and stickers and all this stuff, so of course I got excited because I like stickers. And so after we figured out what we were doing, he told me that we were building a birdhouse. So at first I was kind of hesitant, and I wasn't as excited because I was like, what am I going to do with a birdhouse? I can't really play in it, and I can't play with it, so that's not going to be fun. But it ended up being one of the best times that I spent with my grandfather, because he showed me so much love and affection, and the end product was this crooked, lopsided, bright yellow birdhouse with big butterfly stickers on it that was kind of tacky looking, and it hung in our backyard for the longest. So after I spent this amazing day, we got our picture taken, and we had the biggest smiles on our faces, and you could just feel the love through the photograph. Sadly, this would be one of the last times I would see him for about 2 years. My mother decided that it was time for a change of scenery, and that we were going to move down to Kentucky. After some not so great decisions, I actually ended up moving with my aunt, and I was taken away from my mother, and my grandparents moved from Pennsylvania to Kentucky. And so it was kind of different for me, because I was in Kentucky, and then after they moved from Kentucky, they moved all the way back to this really small town in Pennsylvania with like a population of 12 now, because they had just moved there. And so after the 2 years, I always felt like I was missing a piece of me, because I didn't wake up to the people that I saw every morning anymore. I didn't get to eat breakfast with them. I didn't get to see their amazing smiles anymore. And I felt like this huge hole in my heart, because I felt like a piece of me was missing. And after 2 years of feeling lost, I finally got to go see my grandparents in Pennsylvania. And before I knew it, I was having the best time, and I felt home again. And this put my heart at peace. After the 2 weeks, it ended actually really fast, and 2 weeks went by really fast. So we were at the airport, and it was time for me to leave, and my grandfather actually came up to me, and he hugged me, and he didn't say a word to me, he just walked away. I thought maybe he didn't love me anymore. Maybe the time that we spent away from each other was too long of a time, and that the distance between us meant that he didn't care for me as much as he did before. But actually, as I watched further, and I noticed that he actually walked away, and he began to cry. So after he began to cry, I finally realized that it wasn't that he didn't love me anymore, it was the fact that he didn't know how to tell me that he loved me, and that I was actually one of the most important people in his life. So my grandmother kissed me and hugged me and started crying and screaming, and oh my God, she's leaving, and it's like, yeah, you're making a scene. And so I boarded the airplane, and I checked my bag, and actually noticed that, like the moments before that me and my grandfather had shared so dearly, there was a bag of popcorn in the bag, and it had this little picture of me and my grandfather holding this crooked, bright yellow birdhouse with big butterfly stickers that was so tacky. And we had, you could, like I said before, you could feel the love through the photo. And on the back of it said what he couldn't tell me in person. It said, "I love you." And from this moment, I realized that love, no matter what, prevails through everything, time and distance.